Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I hope I'm audible, I'm visible, and the PPT is also visible. Yeah. So, again, a disclaimer right at the beginning. So, we are basically going to discuss what all things to do after the CAT 23 result. Now, I know that officially the scorecard is not out yet. There was a certain window in the morning when the scorecard was visible, and some people have already downloaded their scorecards, and they more or less have an idea of what their scores look like, right? So that is a disclaimer right at the start. Nowhere am I claiming that the as in the official result is out and all those things. So that is basically one thing. Just that we thought that we'll interact with all of you, considering that the result is very near. So it most probably will be out sometime today or maybe tomorrow, right? Or in a couple of days, worst case. But that is basically what it looks like at this point in time. So the result is more or less as in the results that people were able to download and see, those were consistent with the kind of scores that people were expecting, the kind of percentiles that were predicted and people were expecting. So it's mostly consistent with the expectation, just that officially they haven't declared it yet. So maybe there is some process at the back end that needs to be done, and maybe a few things need to change, or there needs to be another notification that has to release with the result, and maybe that's why the results are not being officially declared yet, right? But that is completely different from what I'm going to discuss now in this particular session. So yeah, so some people are saying that they don't think the scorecard will change, but I don't, again, honestly, I also do subscribe to the same theory. I don't think the scores will change by much. If they change at all, I don't think things are going to change, because whenever something like this has happened in the past, more or less it has been the same number, same percentile that we would have got in the first go, right? But again, this session is completely distinct, is sort of unrelated to whatever has happened. We are mostly going to discuss about what you need to do in terms of your journey ahead for the next month or next couple of weeks or so, right? So that's what we are looking at. So we did a short video in the morning wherein the results were seemingly out, but then they weren't, right? So we just addressed a few queries then. That's when we realized that a lot of people are looking at certain percentiles, and then they have that anxiety in them as to what exactly should be done now that the result might be out at any point, right? So the agenda is fairly straightforward. I'll be touching upon these 6 points. We will basically be interacting for roughly 30 to 40 minutes. So the first thing is, which other tests should I consider? Which B schools should I apply to on the basis of my score? Of course, the application window for the B schools is not out yet, but of course now things will start as in appearing soon, right, on your feeds. So that is one thing. Second, third generation IIMs, what is it that is going to happen, and what is it that you have to keep in mind? How should you start your GDPI preparation? Very important at this point in time. Should I go for a CAT retake in CAT in 2024? Again, at this point in time, it's too early. So a disclaimer about that answer. At this point in time, you need not think about CAT 24 at all, right? So don't think about it. Is what we would strongly recommend. And are there any options abroad that I can look at? Again, that's a different story altogether. So that is something for which we'll be doing a separate thing completely. But as of now, which other tests should you consider? One, ZAT is happening on the 7th of January. So I hope you have registered for the ZAT, irrespective of whatever your score is at the CAT, purely because that opens a lot of doors in terms of the institutes that accept ZAT scores. ZAT has been a test which is sort of different in terms of its DNA when you compare it to the CAT. So you can have a look at how to crack ZAT, the video that we have that Amit sir has made. You can have a look at those videos wherein we are discussing a few of the past previous years questions, right? So all those things you can have a look at in terms of the ZAT, but the registration for ZAT has ended. So of course there is no deadline as such. The test date is the 7th of Jan. So I hope all of you are prepared for the test. MyCat 1 has happened, and in fact, if you have observed a few news that would have trickled along, MyCat has officially released its scores today afternoon. So you can have a look at what your score is at the MyCat. We had done an analysis on the MyCat 1 that happened in December, and the kind of cutoffs that we're expecting, the kind of scores that people have got, is more or less consistent with that analysis that we had done, right? So as more or less we had predicted, a score in the early 20s is expected to be a decent score. Now, of course, MyCat considers its admission in conjunction with the CAT/ZAT score. So of course there is some weight to the MyCAT score and some weight to the CAT/ZAT score. But overall, we think that 22 23 is a decent performance at the MyCAT 1, right? TISNET has been scrapped officially this year, so we are not going to have TISNET. I just put it because it was a part of last year's table that we had. So just for those of you who are not who have not followed the news, TISNET is not happening this year. It will be CUET PG is the exam that will be considered for the admissions. PGDBA tentatively happens in March. So we are talking about the postgraduate diploma in business analytics program that is jointly conducted by IIM Calcutta, IIT Kharagpur, and ISI Kolkata. So that is a test that will tentatively happen in March. The deadlines and everything is yet to be announced. CMAT, again, we have to have we do not really have a lot of clarity on that front. If CMAT is happening according to schedule, or if CMAT is going to be replaced completely by CUET PG, as the rumors have been going on. But again, there is no clarity on CMAT as of now. So what we are suggesting people is to prepare as if CMAT is going to happen in the month of Jan, towards the end, or in the month of February. So again, don't discount CMAT because there is no information out yet, right? So prepare for CMAT as you would have otherwise. CET, we have the dates. 9th and 10th March is what the official portal says. So there was an announcement maybe a week back that CET is going to be conducted in the on the second weekend of March, right? So that is what has been announced, but there is no registration that is open yet. Typically CET registration starts in the month of January, so that is more or less about it. Yeah. In terms of which B schools you should apply to on the basis of your score, so one thing you have to understand is the IIMs and the B schools who have already applied, right? Those are already ticked is what we are hoping. So as we had suggested, it's advisable that you tick all the options that are there in your CAT form, so that they have the headache of figuring out whether you are eligible for a particular program or not, whether you are supposed to be called for a particular process or not. But IIMs and B schools where you already applied, there is no point asking about what are your chances, because again it depends on a lot of things. It depends on the number of people who would have applied, the kind of scores that these people would have got, the admission criteria that these colleges set. So there are a lot of things that happen. So there is no point asking what are your chances. Having said that, and of course, because we know that you can't really have any control over what has happened now, it is just for your happiness that you are asking this question. We understand that, but then you don't have any control over whether an institute is going to call you or not. And of course, the official announcement is going to happen soon. So the IIMs will tentatively come up with their calls in the month of Jan, more or less. So first couple of weeks, 3 weeks of Jan is when you are going to get to know your chances or of getting a shortlist from any of the IIMs. Same thing goes for ZAT as well. Maybe towards the end of January or mid of January, we will know as to what your ZAT score slash percentile will look like. Same thing, NMAT will happen sometime soon, or the NMAT result will be out sometime in Jan, of course. SNAP will happen sometime in the month of Jan again. So all those things will happen. You will get to know officially when they announce their results. It's not as if it's something exclusive that you will not be made aware of. So don't worry about it, right? And of course we understand your anxiety, but think of additional options, right? Whatever it is there, you can wait for some time. Whatever, wherever you applied, it's fine. On the basis of the previous year cutoffs, you can get an idea of what your score versus percentile might look like, or your chances might look like based on your scores and your percentile, right? More or less, things should remain consistent this year as well. So last year's data that you would have, you can easily take that as a benchmark, and you can just go ahead with that assumption. So for NMAT specifically, let's say someone has a score of around 232, 233 with a decent performance in all sections above 75, let's say for example, then that is a good score but a borderline score. So that is where our advice remains consistent. If someone has easily crossed 75 in all three sections and has gone on to score more than say 240 marks, then of course there is a very good chance of getting a call from NMIMS. It's almost certain that you are going to get a call. SNAP, again, we had done a similar exercise for SNAP wherein we had done the test analysis. So again, if you look at the test analysis, you will get to know as to what your chances are of getting a call from say an SIBM or an SCMHRD for that matter, right? So those things you can figure out from the analysis that we had done. right? So NMAT snap will be along the same lines that we had more or less predicted. ZAT, if you look at it, once the ZAT is done, we will come up with an analysis wherein we will talk about your chances of getting a call from XLRI, be it for the BM program, HRM program, Delhi campus, Jamshedpur campus, maybe colleges including XIMB, TAPME, and so on. So all the colleges that are going to be a part of the uh, ZAT ecosystem, again we will cover it separately. But as of now, you can consider last year's data, and you can say that, okay, because my score is very close to last year's data, there is a borderline chance that I might be able to get through. If my score is comfortably above last year's data, then there is a good chance that I will get through. And if my score is below last year's data, there is a good chance that I might not get. ठीक है. So again, यहाँ पे बहुत सारे mights, possibles, possibilities, ये सब चीजें आ जाएंगी. So don't worry about it. But last year's numbers can be a decent benchmark. Right. Now, in terms of some of the colleges that might open their calls at this point in time, you can have a look at MICA Ahmedabad. So MICA Ahmedabad, MICA 2 is still pending. So that is one thing you can have a look at. Some of the other institutes that you might want to look at, and whose windows might be open or might get opened a bit later, will be institutes like, say, IIM Amritsar, IIM Nagpur, IIM Rohtak. So we have the entire list of colleges, updated list of colleges in the description below. So we call it the ultimate guide to B-School applications. So you can have a look at the ultimate guide. So there you will have all the information pertinent to B-Schools whose applications are open, and the cutoffs that are there, the latest salaries that would have been there. So all those things you will find in the ultimate guide to B-School admissions, and the B-School corner that we have, right? B-School zone that we have. So that is basically what we have. Typically, we have seen that IIM Amritsar, IIM Nagpur, IIM Rohtak are prone to inviting applications again, in addition to what you have done on your CAT form, right? So your CAT form, if you applied to IIMs Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Lucknow, Indore, Kozhikode, Calcutta, all these colleges, if you have applied to, you will most probably not have to apply again for their flagship programs. However, for some of the IIMs, visibly Amritsar, Nagpur, and Rohtak, there is a possibility that they might come up with an additional round of application, right? So if and then happens, we will definitely let you know as to what the situation is, right? And then again, we have colleges from the Delhi University. We have a lot of IITs who will open their applications once the CAT result is officially out. So all these colleges will be there. Now, IIT Bombay, SJM, SOM, if you look at it, or IIT Delhi, IIT Kharagpur, IIT Kanpur, all these are decent colleges. So, according to our classification, they fall in that A2, A3, A5 bucket, respectively. So, that is what we are looking at. The eligibility criteria is what we have from last year. This year, things might change by a bit. Um, yeah, things might change by a bit this year, but in case there's something happens, we'll keep you updated, right? So for non-engineers as well, some of the IITs accept your candidature. So make sure that you are reading the eligibility um, page properly, and in case you are eligible, and if it's an IIT that matches your expectations, then why not? You can look at that as an option, right? So IIT Madras, IIT Roorkee, IIT Jodhpur, IIT Dhanbad, so all the institutes are there. The eligibility is what we have written. Again, as I'm speaking, this is last year's data, so definitely this year we will update it as soon as we get more clarity in terms of each IIT, right? But all the IITs are fairly decent in terms of their ranking. I would suggest at a very blanket level, if you are looking at a score of somewhere around 90th percentile as well, even then 85 to 90 percentile as a general candidate, even then you will have a decent shot at least the IITs ranked 7th, 8th here. So Jodhpur, Dhanbad, Roorkee, maybe you will have chances at these IITs. Typically, your IITs will be somewhere in the mid 90s. Yeah, IIT Bombay might be in the late 90s. Right. So that is basically what the IITs look like. The indicative cutoffs is what I have written here. So as I mentioned earlier, IIT Madras DOMS, based on your profile and everything, 89 percentile is where you can get a call. Again, this is historical data. I'm not talking about what will happen this year, but this is indicative, right? SGM SOM at a 98ish percentile, even if they take profile into consideration, you should have a decent shot. Similarly, IIT Roorkee closes at as low as 79 percentile as well. So maybe you can have a look at these colleges. And again, as I'm speaking, again, if you look at what is uh, going on this year in terms of the B school, so we have put the link to the ultimate guide for B school applications in the description below, so you can check that out. There we have covered B schools in a lot of depth, right? So which colleges have their application windows open, what is the deadline, what were the cutoffs, so all those things you will find on that portal, right? In terms of the resources, as I was mentioning, the school zone is one thing that you can have a look at to figure out what is the average salary and the tests accepted, the placement reports, the college name, the category into which we have divided that particular institute, so that you will find under B school zone, right? So that is what we call it, B school zone. And the second thing, the ultimate guide to B school applications that I am talking about will look something like this. So LBSIM, there is an application link that is there. MyCat, there is an application link that is there. And below it, once you scroll down, you will see a lot of things that would have happened. So let's say, for example, NMAT has happened. So what will be the benchmark in terms of NMAT? What were the cutoffs for the colleges under the NMIMS umbrella? What is the cutoff for non-NMIMS institutes, expected cutoff? So all those things will be there in terms of the ultimate guide to B school applications. Yeah. All right, so some people are saying cat site no longer shows result. Yeah, so that was basically the first line of the session today. The result we know is out yet not out, right? So a lot of people had a chance to download their scorecards and have a look at their result, but then again the results were retracted. Now I'm assuming it is because they were not officially supposed to be out, and that is why they have retracted it. But fair enough, as in, they will be out soon is the expectation from our side. But otherwise, yes, for all practical purposes, the CAT results are officially not out yet, right? Then, if you look at the GDPI preparation that you have, so it's very important for you to start with your GDPI preparation seriously as well. So I am sure that some of you will be taking the snap tomorrow, 22nd, right? So 22nd snap will be happening, the last window. So then I'm sure some of you will be taking snap. Then some of you are preparing for the ZAT, yes. But then again, if you have a good profile, so I saw some profile here, 999 and 97 percentile, right? Now that's a very good profile, rather, and that is something that will help you get at least a few calls. Now, I'm not saying whether IIT Bombay specifically will be possible or not. It seems likely, but then again, if you look at other institutes as well, I'm sure you are going to get a few calls that you will have to that you can appear for in terms of the VAT and GDPI process, right? So I would suggest that you start thinking about GDPI seriously as well. So I'm not saying that start your GDPI preparation full-fledgedly and spend 20-30 minutes every day on preparing for GDPI. That is not the point of this particular question. But at least start introspecting. Start thinking about why was it that you wanted to do an MBA. What kind of an answer do you think will convey the passion that you have for management education, the aptitude for management education, and how have you exhibited seriousness when it comes to choosing a particular specialization or your discipline. How much of a homework have you done pertinent to a particular role or a particular industry or a particular function or a particular institute? So all those things will come into the picture. To start with, I know it sounds very overwhelming, so to start with, what you can do is you start writing down all the things that you can think about from your life, right, that are relevant in a professional context. So it could include your school, your college, maybe two or three top experiences that you can remember from your school days, two or three top experiences that you can remember from your college days. ये सारी चीजें you can just note down one after the other. Try to be as descriptive as possible. Don't really skimp on the number of words that you're going to use. Write as much as you can, right? You can just dictate it on your phone or something, and you can just have a transcript of it ready. So utna if you do, you will get a lot of clarity in terms of what it means for you to do an MBA, right? So if you see a lot of these business related examples that you can come up with, then that is something that will encourage you to think about MBA as a career choice. It will reinforce the kind of belief you had in yourself when you started with your MBA preparation, right? So that is one thing that I would strongly suggest that you do that. Then again, you can always think about questions like, tell me something about yourself. what are your three biggest strengths, what are your three biggest areas of improvement at this point in time, what is your short term goal, what are your long term goals, an example or a situation wherein you exhibited leadership qualities, right? What are your hobbies beyond test prep and beyond your college slash job? So all those things are very important. Try to think about these things. I'm not saying that come up with answers and have one answer in mind over the next couple of days, utna nahi kiya to chalega. Just make sure that you're thinking about these things actively, because once you reach the beginning of January, the mid of January, and suddenly you end up getting a call from say SIBM Pune, and your interview is let's say on the 29th of January, then you are in big trouble, because now you have barely 10 days to start your preparation for GDPI and then think about what's going to happen, right? So ensure that you already have done some introspection, some research from your side, so that you are mentally prepared as and when you are going to get calls, right? So we have a GDPI program as well, that we have been running over the last many years now. We call it call to admit. So getting a call is only the first step, right? It's only half the battle won. The real fun starts now, because now you are going to be in a concentrated pool of aspirants, most of whom are as good as you are, right? So everybody has the same academics, everybody comes from more or less a similar background, more or less having the same aptitude, similar cat percentile, similar snap percentile, that percentile jo bhi hai, right? But then again, you will have to introspect a bit more. You will have to figure out how to sort of make your candidature seem slightly different and better compared to the other candidates, right? So this is basically an elimination round now. So in this case, we have the GDPI program. So they are delivered in a classroom format, online format. And this year specifically, we have a special program for NMAT and SNAP call getters. NMAT, SNAP, MyCat call getters rather. Right. So you can have a look at these. Again, the link to this program is in the description box below. This year for IIM call getters and final converts, we are giving rewards of up to 5,000 rupees. Right. So this is basically what we have this year in terms of the GDPI. Now, for people who are asking if they should go for a retake, again, the point is you don't have to think about retake right now, right? Even if you have got a 60 percentile, let's say for example, or even less than that, to be chalega, you know what it takes to prepare for the CAT and appear for the test, right? Chances are very high that someone who is at a 60th percentile, if I were to administer CAT 23 today, the same paper, if I were to give it to you today, you would have done a much better job today compared to what you did on the 26th of November, right? And I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to this statement. Just because they were scared of the test was why they were not able to perform to the best of their potential. That is more or less consistent. Otherwise, I'm sure that someone who is at a 50th percentile, a 60th percentile, and someone who is at a 75, 80 percentile, there is very less that separates these two categories of people, right? So don't worry about it. Just ask yourself a few questions, but then again, don't think about CAT 24 at this point in time, right? So is a CAT 23 score the max of your potential? If that is the case, then maybe think about it. Does a 1 year of preparation is 1 year of preparation really going to make a difference, right? Did you mess up your attempt in some way? Think about it. Was there something that you could have done differently, but you just got stuck, right? You listen to a lot of people talking about quad, and maybe because of that you were not able to sort of focus and do well at the quant section. You got stuck in the quant section, right? One more year of preparation is generally going to be a lot more taxing than you think it will be. So again, once you reach the months of May, June, July, I'm sure there will be some amount of fatigue that will start setting in, especially if you are not enjoying your preparation. Okay. Again, what is your real why? Why do you want to go for an MBA? Are you motivated enough to go for an MBA? Or are there other aspects in your life that have taken precedence, and maybe because of that you were not able to prepare well for the entirety of the last 6 months, 8 months, or 1 year, right? The point is, do not think of a retake right now. You can revisit that decision in March. CAT application window, CAT 24 application window is not closing today, so it's not required for you to think whether you want to go for 24 or not. What I would strongly suggest is, if you have GDPI calls from any institute, do turn up for those processes. Make sure that you are appearing for all these kind of interviews. You gain some confidence by attending all these processes, and then depending on the result, you can plan for the next year as well. So let's say for example you do well and you end up converting your calls, it's very good because you are very confident of converting the calls, and the only issue that you have is getting an interview call. Once you get that interview call, brilliant. You don't really have to worry much about converting that call because you have already converted some call in your previous year. So that is one good thing in case you convert the call. If you do not convert the call, then you know that there is this thing that you have to work on throughout the entire year. It's not going to be a 1 month, 2 months kind of a thing wherein you will put your entire energy preparing for the GDPI round, and then magic will happen. It's not going to happen like that. It takes a lot of effort. You will have to consciously think about where you are in terms of your GDPI performances and then improve those specific bits. So if general knowledge is an issue, you might have to start reading a bit earlier. If participating in group discussions is an issue, you might have to start a bit earlier. If improving your handwriting to make sure your VAT is legible, you might have to start a bit earlier. If storytelling is not your forte, you might want to start earlier. So all these things you will need to know before you start your preparation for CAT 2024, right? So make sure that you are going through the GDPI rounds, you are going through all the other tests that are there, and only maybe around the month of March or so, when you have more clarity, that is when you can decide if you want to take a retake or you want to take the CAT again or not, right? And you already have a certain amount of initiation in terms of what you have done for CAT 23, so you will start from exactly the same place where you have left CAT 23. So don't worry about it. You are not going to forget a lot of things over the next 2 or 3 months. So don't worry about not being in the right frame of mind in the month of March, or you having lost a lot of time by the time you reach March. So don't worry about that. Yeah. Same thing. There are three cases that we have mentioned here. So one, improving your percentile and work X, you have certain actionable insights from your previous attempts. So you were a good candidate throughout. You ended up scoring well in two sections, but one section is below 70 or below 60 percentile. Maybe because of that you feel aggrieved and you feel that, nay, I want to try again. Maybe again in the month of March, you can decide whether you want to go for it or not. Last bit, in case the ACADs are low, and that's why any improvement in performance or the profile is not going to help, right? So in that case, again, go for the best option that you have. Apply to all the colleges that you can. Apply to specifically look at those institutes which encourage people to apply irrespective of their past academics, right? So something like an XLRI, let's say, for example, or even an FMS, for example, let's say. Many of the IITs might not consider your profile. You can also look at colleges like, again, I'm talking top of my mind, I'm talking about colleges like, say, MDI. IFT traditionally has not been very picky about your past scores and so on. So apply to these kind of institutes wherein you might have chances of getting a call even if you don't have great ACADs, and go through the entire drill of GDPI. Only then decide whether you want to go for 24 or not, right? So to summarize the entire discussion, one, apply to Bschools, prepare for other tests, prepare for GDPI, right? Look at deferred MBA/MIM options if you can. Again, we'll be doing a specific thing for this particular point. So at this point in time, don't think about that too much. CAT 24 retake, as I'm saying, do not look at CAT 24 retake at this point in time. Revisit that decision later. And rejecting these schools is a strict no-no. You can't reject something that you do not have. So at this point in time, no college has selected you. So don't ask questions like which one should I go for, IMI or IMT. You haven't got through IMI, you haven't got through IMT. The comparison is moot. Convert both the colleges, then come to us. Maybe then we will be in a better position to answer your query. We might ask you to not join either of them, right? But then it's a function of you converting those colleges. Don't start rejecting colleges from your end. It's their job to select or reject you. It's not your job to select or reject colleges, right? So don't get into those things. It's very easy for you to start getting into the picking game and play selector right away. But now is not the time to select colleges. That comes much later, right? So don't worry about it. So we'll see a few questions, and then we'll stop the session. Yeah. So list of colleges with no sectional cutoffs. Ritik, again, so this year we don't really have data for a lot of colleges because they have not really come up with the criteria. But for IIMs, definitely there will be sectional cutoffs. For most of the non-IIMs, there will be no sectional cutoffs. So that is one thing that you can differentiate. But otherwise, many of the top colleges, so let's say an SPJMR for that matter, right? They will have sectional cutoffs. XLRI for that matter will have sectional cutoffs. FMS might not have sectional cutoffs, but they will have a proportional weightage to say 40 to the verbal section, say in terms of 40%, 30 for quant, 30 for LRDA. ये सब हो सकता है, right? But explicitly, if you look at it, there might be few colleges, there definitely will be few colleges in the top league which will not consider sectional cutoffs. We'll make a separate video on those colleges, so stay tuned for that bit, right? Um Now, in terms of what's going on, scale score 26.5 expected percentile. So, Ashish, I'm assuming that if you are able to get your scale score, you would have also been able to get your percentile, right? So, it will be there on your scorecard itself. So, don't worry about it. The exact number will be made visible to you maybe today evening or maybe by tomorrow. But whenever the CAT result is officially out, you will get your scorecard and your percentile. Darshan, why can't you see your scorecard? Of course, they have retracted it. That's why you're not able to see the scorecard. That is the obvious bit, and so on. Yeah, MDI typically does not, but again, let's wait for what happens this year. 98.73 general non-engineer female, chances of black eye again depends on your ACATs. If your ACATs are say 90 in 10th, 90 in 12th, 18 graduation, there is a good chance of you getting at least a few of the black eye calls. So that is one. NMAT expected cutoffs, as I mentioned, the details are present in the link that I mentioned, ultimate guide ke andar. If you go to NMIMS NMAT, you will see all the cutoffs that are pertinent. Top of my mind, 232 at the NMAT is the borderline for NMIMS, with a sectional split of roughly 75 or above in each of the sections. Okay? Where some questions in verbal slot to wrong, Vedant. So again, a lot of people are asking this question. From what we have seen, again, it's a very wild guess. The verbal questions seem to have been considered. The objections, the challenges were supposed to be are expected to be considered. But again, we have to wait for the official the official communication from the IIM's end as to what exactly has happened. Okay, 88 percentile, any chance? Again, there are a lot of colleges that are open at 88 percentile. Again, I would strongly advise you to go to the Bschools zone. There you will be able to see all the colleges that are in that particular bracket in terms of cutoffs. But again, top of my mind, I'm thinking of colleges like the one that I showed you, IIT Roorkee, let's say, for example. I'm talking about colleges like, say, GIM, maybe LBSIM, SIMSR, TAPME, Great Lakes. So all these colleges might be open at an 85 to 90ish percentile. Okay, 95% male engineer black eye seems very unlikely unless something exceptionally different happens. Okay, NMAT 219, which colleges to target? Again, I would strongly suggest to go to that link and check it out on your own. But then again, top of my mind, I think NMIMS sister campuses will be available for you. So have a look at it. So maybe a Hyderabad or an Indore might be uh, possible at 219. Okay, but NMIMS, I'm seeing a lot of queries. Everything is there on in that link that I have mentioned, so do have a look at it. I'm sure you will see a lot of good things there. Okay. um okay, will 70 percentile clear sectional cutoff? Pragyan, it depends on the college, but colleges are very rigid in terms of sectional cutoffs. So if there is a college that has said 70th percentile is going to be my sectional cutoff, then even a 69.99 is not going to be in. Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah, all IITs, more or less, IITs will generally have relaxed norms in terms of overall and sectional percentiles. So you can maybe consider that. EWS का भी बता दो. Himanshu, see, EWS is a very tricky category to predict, right? Because the number of applicants are much higher than the number of seats. One benchmark that you can go for is whatever is the NCOBC cutoff, more or less that remains the EWS cutoff. But in many cases, we have seen that the EWS cutoff is very close, or in some cases even higher than the general cutoff, right? So that is more or less what it looks like. Okay. 98.1, every section about 90 percentile. What calls can I expect? Side and again, as I mentioned, most of the IIT should be possible. We have to wait for IIM Mumbai and IFT to officially come up with their criteria. I think this looks to be a score which IIM Mumbai might be interested in considering their previous record. So maybe those kind of things you can have a look at. Ankit Kumar, results are not out yet. Yes, results are not out yet. I didn't say results are out yet, but then they were out and they were not out simultaneously. Yeah, you can't. Nobody can see the results, so don't worry about it. Okay. 998.5 OBC 85 percentile. 85 is slightly borderline. But again, some of the second generation, third generation IIMs definitely should be open at this code. Okay. So again, we might once we have more clarity, we might come up with score calculators to ensure that what your score is correspond. It will to show you the chances that you have at your particular score and at a particular profile. So stay tuned for those things. This was more or less a sort of a general session on what to do now that the CAT result is out yet not out. So that's why we thought that we'll have a quick discussion with you. Of course, we'll have a detailed take on all these matters soon. So once the official result is out, once we have more clarity on the kind of criteria that say colleges like the IIFT, IIM Mumbai have set, if there are the latest IIMs that are considering separate applications, then what exactly happens in that case. So for all those things, we will have communications that will be made available for you. So do subscribe to the channel and again stay tuned for more such content on the channel, right? If you look at the description box below, there are a lot of things that we have put up there. So we have put up the course for ZAT that we have a very short term course, considering that there are a couple of weeks left for the ZAT. We also have a GDI program, as I already mentioned. So do have a look at those programs that are there. You can also have a look at the ultimate guide to B-School applications that is present there. That is a completely free resource. You can just log into that site. It's a Notion website that is there. You can just have a look at it, and there you will find a lot of interesting information pertinent to B-School applications overall. Right. So all those things are there in the comment section below. We also have CET/CMAT batches that have started, that will be starting. So again, you can have a look at those as well, just in case you are interested in CET and CMAT colleges. So you can have a look at those bits as well. So on that note, I will close the session. If you have any doubts pertinent to what we had discussed today, you can put it in the comment section of the video. I'll try to reply to most of the queries that we get there. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's always better for you to wait for a couple of weeks for the official news to come out, considering that you have already applied and nothing changes in the next couple of weeks, right? The only things that you have control over are two things: one, preparation for other tests, and two, GDPR preparation. So make sure that you do these two things properly. Do not spend time speculating and asking 10 people what your chances are. Five people are going to say there is a good chance, five people are going to say there is not a you don't really have a great chance of getting through. So you will again end up getting a lot more confused. So don't do that. Focus on what you can control. Focus on your ADMAT preparation, so additional management admission tests preparation, and focus on your GDPI preparation. Right. So on that note, I'll close this session. Thank you everyone for joining, and yeah, wish you all the best with the next test. All those of you who are taking SNAP tomorrow, wish you all the best. All those of you who are preparing for the ZAT, we will meet again soon. And for those of you who end up getting calls, we will meet again slightly later. Yeah. So wish you all the best, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.